In this chapter, we will talk about flow control. What is flow control? Well, in any programming language, the execution is never linear. Let me explain what I mean by that. So, a program is a bunch of lines of code, 100 lines, 10 lines, 1000 lines, depending on what kind of program you're writing. And the flow of the program never goes just like that, linearly. Most of the time, it goes, let's say, from here to here, and then there is some kind of a switch statement here that lets the program jump from here to here, and then execute maybe this block of code, and then go to the next block. The point being, the flow of execution is never linear. Now, the way programming languages achieve it is by using conditional statements. There are some other examples like loops, which can be used for flow control in a different way. But in general, there is a set of statements, if statements, else statements, elif statements. These are some examples of flow control statements called conditional statements. The reason why they are called conditional statements is because each of these syntaxes basically evaluate if a particular expression is true or false. If it is true, that block of code is executed. If it is not true, it is not executed. So let's look at the basic if statement. This is like the most basic conditional statement. If statement, right? What is an if statement? We have already seen some examples of if statement. If the number modulo division 2 is 0, it's an even number. If not, it's an odd number. Let's take a more involved example. Say there is an elevator that we are trying to program in Python. Say there are 10 floors. Let's say the first floor, second floor. You can start with a 0, but that's fine. Let's just start with 1. So there are 10 floors and there is an elevator here. The elevator is currently on the first floor or the 0th floor, depending on how you look at it. And the user is here. Say the user is here on the 9th floor, right? The user is here on the 9th floor and the user presses the button. The elevator has to move up to the 9th floor, right? Now, to program this elevator, what we have to do is first understand where the signal is coming from. The signal is coming from the 9th floor. And the elevator also has to understand where it is currently on the first floor. Now, 9 is greater than 1, so it is somewhere up above, so you have to move up. Now, let's say it has moved up, done. Now, another user pressed number 5 on floor number 5. Now, what has to happen? The elevator is on floor number 9. Because the number that the user has pressed is down below on floor number 5, the elevator has to move down. Now, the actual logic for an elevator is pretty complex because it has to take care of so many things. But let's just simplify things here and see if we can write a Python program that can control how it moves, whether it should move up or whether it should move down, depending on where it is currently, the number of floors, and which floor the user has pressed the button. Now, before we do anything, let's just initialize a couple of things. Let's just say, what are the total number of floors? It is 10. What is the current floor? It is 0, assuming that the first floor is 0, right? The ground floor is 0. And then user floor is still assigned to 0 because we don't know where the user is yet. So we'll just initialize it to 0, just the starting point, okay? Floors, current floor, user floor. So these are the three variables that we'll be playing with. Okay, floors. There are 10 floors, and then user underscore floor. So this variable holds the floor where the user has pressed the button. So this is also 0. And then where the elevator is currently. So current underscore floor is also 0. Shift enter. We have initialized the variables. Okay, so here is the logic. Let's see what we are trying to do here. We have just randomly initialized the user underscore floor. Say the user is on floor number 6. We can change it anytime we want. Okay, just put a number in there. The difference, we have created a new variable here called difference, and we are saying difference is user underscore floor, the floor where the user is, minus current underscore floor, where the current position of the elevator is. Initially, this is 0, right? Both user floor and current floor are 0, so it doesn't go anywhere. So we are just trying to say, okay, what if the user floor is 6? How does the lift react? That's what we are trying to see. So the user floor is 6, okay. The current floor is 0, so the elevator is currently at 0 position. So the difference is 6 minus 0, 6. And then we are saying, if difference less than 0, do something. If the difference is greater than 0, do something. Now in our case, the difference is 6. So the difference is greater than 0, right? So this particular block of code is executed. And what are we doing in this block of code? Current underscore floor equal to user underscore floor. So we are basically pulling the elevator up, and then just to show that we are pulling the elevator up, we print move elevator up, move up. So if the current floor is 0 and the user is on the 6th floor and the user wants the elevator to be on the 6th floor, we move the elevator up, right? Now say we are on the 6th floor, say the elevator is on the 6th floor and the user underscore floor is set to 4. Okay, so user underscore floor is 4 and the current floor where the elevator is 6. What is 4 minus 6? Minus 2. So this variable, is it less than 0 or greater than 0? It is less than 0. So this block of code is executed. And what does this block of code do? It sets the current floor to user underscore floor. So move the elevator from 6 to 4. And then just to print out some information, we are saying move down, because the elevator is moving down from 6th floor to 4th floor. Well, we are going to improve on this program. This is just the basic version. So don't think too much about making this more dynamic. I'm just trying to illustrate a point here. The point being how an if statement works. So here is a quick visual on how the if statement works. It works like this in Python. This is specific to Python. Now, if you have some experience with, say, the C programming language or Java programming language, the way the if statement works there is almost similar, except there's no colon here. There will be a bracket and the condition goes here, and then there will be flower braces, and anything between the flower braces is executed if the condition is true. That's how the if statement works in Java or C or C++. Python works slightly differently. It's almost the same, except there's no parenthesis here. You can put if you want to, but there's no need. And this block is verified if it evaluates to true or false. And the expression for it can be pretty complicated. You could be using a complicated expression like using ands or ors. And then put a semicolon here. And that marks the beginning of the block. Now, instead of using flower brackets, what Python does is it looks for an indentation. Typically, an indentation is a tab or 2 or 4 spaces. And this indentation marks the length of the block. So if you indent 2 characters or 4 characters or use a tab, as long as the tab or that particular space is there, that's considered a block. So this is the block. And the way Python ends the block is when you remove the tab and pull it back to the level of the if statement. So for example, when you write a statement here, like say you put another if statement or do a print statement here, then that means the block has ended. So the point I want you to take away is how to define a block in Python. A block of code is a chunk of code with a particular indentation. Indentation is just the number of spaces. As long as 3 or 4 lines are at a particular set of indentation, say 4 spaces away from this line, then all those 4 statements become part of a block. Right? So the indentation dictates how big the block is, and the if statement checks whether an expression is true or false, and if it is true, everything within that block is executed. Now let's actually look at this in Jupyter. Okay, now we want to find the difference first, right? So the user has pressed it on floor number 4 and the elevator is at ground 0. So we want to move it up, right? So difference equals user underscore floor minus current underscore floor, right? So we store the difference in this difference variable. Now, if difference is less than 0, that means the user floor is less, but the current floor is higher. That means we have got to move down. Okay, print move down. Okay, and then look at this, the way Jupyter has indented this line for us. Let me actually show you in the next statement. Okay, if difference greater than 0 and put a colon. Now if I hit enter, just observe where the cursor is going. Enter. See, the cursor is not going all the way here. It's going one tab out. That means Jupyter already knows that I'm going to write a block of statement that's going to be corresponding to this if statement. And that's why it is already indented it to the right. Now print move up. Now let's execute this. Actually nothing happens, right? Because the current floor is 0. This is 0. User floor is 0. Current floor is 0. So nothing happens. So let's just initialize this to user underscore floor. So the user is on, let's say, floor number 4, but the elevator is at floor number 0. Okay, shift enter. Now what happens? The difference is going to be 4 minus 0. 4 minus 0 is 4. So the difference is a positive 4. So which block gets executed? So this block will not get executed because difference is not less than 0. So this evaluates to false. So this statement will not be executed. Instead, this evaluates to true because the difference is 4. Difference is greater than 0. So the program will say move up. So let's try and execute this. See, it says move up. Now, let's say user underscore floor equals 4 and current underscore floor Say the elevator is at level 6 and the user is at level 4. What happens now? The user is below the elevator, so the elevator has to come down. So let's execute this. And what happens here? The difference is 4, user underscore 4 is floor, current underscore floor is 6. So this is 4, current floor is 6, 4 minus 6 is minus 2. Difference is less than 0, right? So because it's a minus 2, the difference is less than 0. This evaluates to true, and this should get printed. And would this block of code get executed? No, it does not. Because the difference is greater than 0, only then execute this. But in our case, the difference is less than 0. Okay, now let's execute this. Move down. Because the elevator is up above the user, when the user presses 4, it comes down from 6 to 4. The point I want you to take away is how the if statement gets executed. The if statement has a place where a true or false value is evaluated, and then anything after this indent is executed.